marking 65 years as Kentucky's first television station. This is Wave 3 News.
1 year later, communities across Kentucky and Indiana nearly wiped out by tornadoes. Remember today. Good evening, I'm Jamie Weiss. Myra Ansari is off tonight. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first we have several developing stories. We begin in Elizabethtown, where 6 people are dead and 2 in critical condition after 2 serious wrecks on Interstate 65. That's according to the Hardin County Emergency Management Director. Air 3 captured these images not long after the wrecks happened at 11 o'clock this morning. EMA Director Doug Finley says 6 people were killed in the wreck on the northbound side of I-65 near mile marker 81. 2 people are in critical condition after a separate wreck on I-65 southbound. The interstate reopened just about an hour ago after being closed in both directions for nearly 6 hours. Wave 3 has a crew at the scene and will have more tonight at 11. Also developing in Clarksville, a 17-year-old girl is dead. Police say she was murdered. Wave 3's Sherelle Hubbard just spoke with police in Clarksville. Sherelle, do they know who killed her?
Well, Jamie, Clarksville police already have a man in custody. The girl would have celebrated her 18th birthday next week. Live in the newsroom, Sherelle Hubbard, Wave 3 News.
Thanks, Sherelle. Also, just into the Wave 3 newsroom, the name of the man found dead in a dumpster yesterday. The coroner says 22-year-old Christopher Malone died of multiple gunshot wounds. His body was found in a dumpster at a business in the 3200 block of Allman Avenue. The coroner says Malone was from Jeffersonville. Louisville Metro Police are still trying to figure out who killed him. If you have any information that could help in their investigation, you're asked to call the anonymous tip line. That number on your screen right now, 574 LMPD. Now back to our top story, marking 1 year since March 2nd. There were several events for tornado survivors across Kentucky and Indiana today, including one in Henryville. That's where people who responded and were affected by the March 2nd tornado gathered together this afternoon, honoring all that was lost and rebuilt. After a flag dedication, first responders, community members, and even several of us from Wave 3 lined up to parade down US 31 in Henryville from the firehouse to the high school. That's where there was a memorial service where current Indiana Governor Mike Pence got emotional talking about all of the communities of Marysville, Pekin, and we heard from Henryville's fire chief and what his community has been through in the last year.
The people of Henryville are standing tall and strong.
While communities celebrate how far they've come in the past year, the devastation brought on by the EF4 tornado was nothing short of tragic. Wave 3's Catherine Kington takes us back to just some of what was left behind after that day, March 2nd, 2012.
In Henryville, Catherine Kington, Wave 3 News.
And it wasn't just Henryville. You had Pekin, you had Marysville, you had West Liberty here in Kentucky, and we were in those areas the days after the storm, and being out there today, it's just incredible to see how far everybody's come.
Yeah, it's been a long year, but they've done exceptionally well, I think, all things considered. Wish I could have been up there today. A little under the weather myself, so I think it was better for them that I stayed
We're
home.
glad you're here now.
Yeah, we're hanging in there, and we're still talking. We're still in winter mode. You know, nothing like what we had a year ago with all that severe weather. All that coming up in just a few minutes. Jamie?
Thanks, Andy. We'll see you then. The blame game continues in Washington as both sides of the aisle point fingers while the nation comes to grips with deep federal spending cuts. And a man who dropped into a sinkhole while sleeping in his Florida home is now presumed dead. Much more still ahead on Wave 3 News at 6.
Working for you. This is Wave 3 News with Myra Ansari, meteorologist Andy Weingarten, and Mike Hartnett, sports.
Federal employees are getting ready for some serious belt tightening over the next 30 days and for the foreseeable future. Congress and the White House were unable to break their impasse over the automatic federal spending cuts known as the sequester. The cuts are big, but the bigger concern right now is what kind of ripple effects they'll have on the recovering economy. Brian Moore has the story from Washington.
First full day of the sequester cuts, House Speaker John Boehner was on home turf in Ohio telling his side of the story.
I've watched presidents of both parties, leaders of both parties, kick this can down the road, kick it down the road, kick it down the road, and I made up my mind 2 years ago we weren't going to do it anymore.
The White House and Republicans are blaming each other for $85 billion in across-the-board cuts the president calls outright dumb.
They'll hurt our economy and cost us jobs. And Congress can turn them off at any time, as soon as both sides are willing to compromise.
Phased in over the next 30 days, these massive cuts in military and domestic spending will be far-reaching. In Arkansas, teachers are trying to figure out how to scale back their Head Start school program.
At the end of the day, it's children who are not going to be ready for school because services have been cut.
In Iowa, poultry plants like this one will sit idle as federal inspectors ride out 15 furlough days.
A large population in our community does work at the Tyson plant, and so it would affect many different areas of the community.
The military cuts may even ground the legendary Blue Angels for 6 months.
So we can take that money and reprogram it into readiness.
It's just the beginning of a wave of spending cuts coming soon to a community near you, unless Congress and the White House can work out a better plan. Brian Moore, NBC News, Washington.
A Florida man who disappeared into a sinkhole while sleeping in his bedroom is presumed dead. Engineers testing the home dropped a listening device into the sinkhole and say they detected no sign of life. Jeff Bush's brother Jeremy placed flowers near the home today. The issue started Thursday night when Jeremy heard a loud crash and his brother Jeff screaming. Jeremy ran to the bedroom and jumped into the sinkhole in search of his brother who fell in. That hole is now 20 feet deep and 30 feet wide. Officials say it is still growing. The Louisville Slugger Museum combines baseball and Legos. We'll take you to the new exhibit next on Wave 3 News.
And the clouds continue, so do the flurries, but there is some hope, though temporary, on the horizon. We'll talk about that in forecast straight ahead.
Welcome back. A new exhibit at the Louisville Slugger Museum promises to reawaken the kid in all of us. It's called Big League's Little Bricks and features art made entirely of Legos. The display includes an incredible replica of Wrigley Field by Sean Kenny, one of only 13 Lego certified professionals in the world. I didn't know those existed. Every piece was built by hand and without the use of computers.
The sculptures that you see in here, what you see here.
That is some talent. I can't wait to check it out. Big League's Little Bricks runs until September and is included in the price of admission.
Working for you. This is your Wave 3 weather.
And I've got a couple of days there, mid-March, in the 60s.
I need that. My bulbs,
we all do.
My bulbs are coming up, and I need to mulch, and it's too cold to get out there. So promise me.
I am working on this diligently. Someone told me it was time to do some yard work, and it's
someone.
It's just too cold.
I bet. Thanks, Andy. Coming up, we check out the boys' 7th region championship game, plus the Cards faced a big road test at Syracuse. Mike is on deck with sports.